What are the features of money market? As we said, it is a market purely for short-term funds or financial assets called as near money. And you don't need, just a second. And we said the tenure of the funds in money market is, say, 0 days to 1 year. 0 days bola to I will invest in the morning and then I will redeem it in the evening also, right? So we say the tenure is for maximum 1 year from 0 days. And then it deals with financial assets having a maturity period of less than a year only. Money market transaction, you don't need a formal stock exchange. It's all oral communication, either over the phone or you type it in email or you make a bank transfer, etc. Right? Again, you don't need brokers in money market. And again, if you talk about, it is not a single homogeneous market. I told you it talks about all money market, acceptance market, discount market, bill market. And the components are commercial banks, acceptance houses, NBFCs. We also have the regulator, the RBI. Now, as I said, it provides you a place to employ short-term funds and then to provide room for overcoming short-term deficits. Like, for example, I have surplus short-term funds, I can lend it in money market. And somebody has, some other company has long-term, I mean, short-term deficits, they can borrow. Or banks need funds for immediate requirements, they can borrow. And to enable central bank to influence, I said I will talk about this part, right? To influence and regulate liquidity in the economy through its intervention in the market. And again, also to provide a reasonable access to users of short-term funds to meet their requirement quickly and adequately at a reasonable cost. If I say this, what happens is in the money market, who are the participants? We have the central banking authority, who is the regulator. Then we have large corporates like ICICI Bank. These are all giant banks, right? We also have smaller corporates, like say, for example, some smaller company like Edelweiss Financial Services. Then we have smaller companies like, say, give me an example if you know smaller companies I'm talking about. Say JM Financial Services, etc. Right? These are some smaller companies that are also participating. Like say DFHL, then we have the India Bulls Housing, LIC Housing. All these may be a part of the money market. But what happens actually is, when is the market actually handling? Have you heard of the CRR, SLR, reserve requirements of commercial central banking for commercial banks? Have you heard of CRR, SLR? Yes, no.
Yes, ma'am.
What are they? SLR, cash reserve ratio, then we have statutory liquidity ratio, etc., which is a requirement of reserves to be kept with your central banking authority. Commercial banks will have to keep these reserves, furnish these reserves with the central banking authority. Cash reserve is from the deposit portion, say 5%, 6% is kept as reserve, and then the remaining is lent. What is SLR? What is statutory liquidity ratio? Statutory liquidity ratio ensures the liquidity of the bank. So the percentage is specified by the central bank, 14 to 25%. कोई भी number हो सकता है. Central bank says supposing 20% has to be kept as liquidity reserve. So what happens is, जब भी रोज का time and demand deposit, रोज का time and demand deposit मतलब रोज का जो डिपॉजिट में आता है कोई भी बैंक के पास, वो सब हम लोग टोटल करते हैं. टाइम मतलब FD, रिकरिंग एक्सेट्रा आता है. Demand deposits are saving, that current account, all these things का total. सब total करके जितना भी है रोज ही, ये रोज ही काम है. This every day it has to be done. SLR is daily requirement, mandatory requirement. So इतना टोटल करके 20% बोला तो उसमें से 20% निकाल के RBI को देते हैं. Are you following? कभी कोई दिन कम है, मतलब उनका डिपॉजिट कम आया, तो वो क्या करते हैं, they will take out some money from RBI if required, otherwise keep it as it is. समझ में आ रहा है? रोज रोज का एडजस्टमेंट होता है. से आज 2000 रुपीज था, तो 400 रुपीज goes to the central bank of central banking authority as reserves, statutory liquidity reserve. And then tomorrow if it is 1800, then I will have to keep how much, say 360 rupees, तो 40 rupees उसमें से निकाल सकती हूँ मैं. समझ में आ रहा है? सो रोज रोज ये करते हैं. इफ यू ऑब्जर्व, बैंक जो कस्टमर टाइम है वो खत्म होता है, उसके बाद भी देखिए फंक्शन they used to. So this is how it works. Now when you see this, how it operates is, now things have become online, so they are doing this also simultaneously. So now statutory liquidity ratio में क्या होता है, why is this asked is to ensure liquidity. Anytime the customer comes asking, like the FD वाला बोलता है मैं 10 साल रखूंगा, और तुरंत ही 2 दिन के बाद आके बोलता है मुझे पैसा चाहिए, ऐसे काफी लोग करे, या एटीएम में से विड्रॉल का प्रेशर रहता है, तो क्या होता है, बैंक इज नॉट एबल टू गिव देम ऑल एट वंस. बराबर, सब अगर मैंने सब डिपॉजिट लेके लोन कर दिया, तो क्या होता है, I don't have money on hand. I will have to wait for my lenders to return to the people whom I have lent. I want them to return, then only I can pay my depositors. समझ में आ रहा है? So what happens here is, now when the depositors come knocking at your door for their money, you should be able to give them, right? तो अभी क्या होता है, if I don't furnish this SLR on a daily basis, डिपॉजिट बढ़ेंगे, उसको मैं लेंड कर दूंगी, तो जब इसको लेंड कर देती हूँ क्या होता है, हाथ में पैसा नहीं रहता. सो आरबीआई से इतना पैसा हमारे पास हो. देयर वाज से a few years back, 7-8 years back, आईसीआईसीआई का एक न्यूज आया था कि आईसीआईसीआई बैंक इज इन ट्रबल, राइट? कुछ अफवाह फैला हुआ था. Then people started going and withdrawing. Immediately a news flash saying ICICI bank is not in trouble. क्या हो रहा था? Say 2-3 people जो ATMs actually कुछ problem था. People when they wanted to withdraw money, they couldn't withdraw money at all. तो problem दे रहा था. ये 2-3 जगह पे हो गया. इसके वजह से लोगों को पैसे नहीं मिला. They were in a panic-stricken state. So the very next day they started thinking that the bank is in a problem. Sorry, ये न्यूज नहीं आया था. It said that bank is not in problem. So people started queuing outside the branches to withdraw their money. तो अभी क्या हो गया था, बैंक के बारे में कुछ गंदा फैला, but bank did give them the money when they went to the bank. Personally जब बैंक में जाते हैं दे दिया था पैसा. And then like it was flashed in the news that there was no problem. It was just that 2-3 ATMs were not working. So it created a panic in people's minds. So those ATMs should be fixed. समझ में आया ये? What happens is these reserve requirements are mandatory because bank is operating with other people's money, and therefore it is only a mobilizer of fund. It is only an intermediary here. So therefore SLR CRR के लिए आपको पैसा रखना पड़ता है. In case you don't have that, you can always access the money market, borrow for short term. So we say that it enables the central bank to influence and regulate the liquidity in the economy. जब economy में पैसे चाहिए, it is able to pump in for short term. Same way, monetary policy implement करने के लिए भी it has to actually have money market, because अगर मेरे पास पैसा नहीं है SLR के लिए, I will tell them say आज 3000 था, कल 2000 था, तो आज 600-200 रुपया और देने का है सेंट्रल बैंकिंग अथॉरिटी को. मेरे पास नहीं है, मैं बोलूंगी 2 दिन रुक जाओ मैं देती हूँ. It doesn't look professional. So market goes unregulated या आपके जो मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी है इट बिकम्स मीनिंगलेस सो कल के इसमें कम डिपॉजिट लूंगा एंड वी विल एडजस्ट सो इट गोस ऑन एंड ऑन एंड ऑन सो ये नहीं करना सो जैसे ही आपका डिपॉजिट टोटल होता है इफ यू डोंट हैव you can go and borrow it in the money market. Are you following?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you following, all of you?
Yes, ma'am.
Why is money market important? Money market is important because we need to have trade and industry develop. Money market में trade and industry develop होना चाहिए. As I said, banks lending जो है, it has to be developed, right? And छोटे short term working capital requirement के लिए market has to be developed. Are you following? Short term fund availability होना चाहिए. Working capital fund should be available. And it helps in the development of capital market also. कभी कभी short term funds नहीं available है, obviously we can't think of long term funds because जब short term के लिए working capital का नहीं है, then companies end up borrowing for longer term, which will become a burden on them. So it helps in the development of capital market because even the monetary policy has been implemented effectively and efficiently because of the existence of because of the existence of money market and also because we have companies which have access to short-term capital requirements. More function of commercial banks. As I told you, when commercial banks need to furnish their CRR or SLR and they don't have money, they can always borrow it from the money market, right? Some other bank which has surplus will lend it because it is also earning some amount of interest. Therefore, it doesn't have to tell RBI, I will give it to you in a week's time, I don't have money. ये सब की जरूरत नहीं. They can borrow, furnish the reserve requirements. As I said, effective central bank control, which is a repetition of the same point. And again, formulation of suitable monetary policy. All these are almost repetition, right? 1, 2, 3 points. Non-inflationary source of finance to the government. When government needs also, RBI does not need to bring in money from foreign country, borrow from foreign country, or it needs to print notes, which will create inflation. जो पैसा है वो ही इधर से उधर से जमा करके शॉर्ट टर्म के लिए it can utilize. Are you following? Existing stock of money itself can be utilized instead of bringing in new capital. Following? Listen about this. We have call money market, commercial bills market or discount market, acceptance market, treasury bill market. Now, before we go into the instruments, we'll just see there are variety of instruments available in money market. In India, we had very few till 1986, but there are now very, very innovative instruments. The earlier ones were treasury bills, money at call and short notice in the call loan market, commercial bills, promissory notes in the bill market. And the new instruments are commercial papers, certificate of deposit, banker's acceptance, repurchase agreement, money market mutual funds. So now